Yeah, so, unfortunately, from your first one, and why does that happen? I'll tell you, there are patients that I have in their first trauma or operation, and I go, listen, you're getting a hernia. The reason you're getting a hernia is that your body's going to spend the next 3 to 6 months saving your life.
Just recovering.
Recovering from septic shock, from the trauma. It's literally, we only have so much energy, nutrition, immune system, those cells. They have to try to do it, and they're definitely going to put keeping your fascia tight on the back burner. If it means keeping you from, cardiac, pulmonary, all of those things. I mean, think about your recovery from the original. So it wasn't a surprise that you had these different defects.
Okay.
Then we do it, 2 more surgeries. At that time, obviously, we waited until you were better, you're eating, it's just that you have those weaknesses, and just with time, you're more active, you're walking, you're living life. Every time you cough or bear down, it's just a little bit of pressure on whatever weakness. And so now they're more noticeable.
Okay.
Yeah. So, how are the ways that we fix hernias? Not in you, but in other people. I put in scopes, 1 scope, 2 pencils, we blow it up, and this is the important part, and that potential area actually lifts. And we're in a room where there's the ceiling, and I'm looking at the defect, and I can put a mesh, I take my mesh, and I put it and cover the hole. Why is that an impossibility in you? 1, there's no space. Trying to find a space to then blow it up, you won't have a space. So the chance of a laparoscopy, that's gone. So then you say, okay, how about opening and fixing? What happens there is you have to envision that you have Swiss cheese like this, all along that area, that central area. Hole, some bigger, some smaller. That tissue can't be sewn because it's just weak tissue already. So what do you have to do? Well, there's a couple of different ways to do this. One is called component separation, where we go on the outside of your 6-pack and we release a third of the layers to allow it to come in. You bring it together, and then you sandwich it with 2 meshes. Typically one that is a scaffold mesh, which means within about a year, the concept is your body grows into it and replaces it and creates almost new fascia. The other one is actually like this, and it incites an inflammatory response as a buttress. And it's a big deal. I have a woman that was over in Medford. Now, this hernia is fixed. And she has a football right here. Why? Where they released this to bring it together here, it blew out here.
So there's always that possibility of...
Oh, absolutely. So the bigger deal, so that's not even the nightmare. That's just that's a hard case in your recovery. And that recovery, because you can't put pressure on it, we're talking months where you're not putting pressure on it, because if you do this and rip it, and this fascia-like material is trying to fill that in, it's only going to fill in over a hole, and guess what? That becomes a billowing sail in the future. So there is a long period where you're not going to be doing anything that it puts pressure on it. We're talking 4 to 6 months. So, but that's not even the nightmare. The nightmare is that I know what your belly's like, and when you do these, and sometimes I'm forced to do them emergently. Somebody has a dead piece of bowel, it's strangulated in there. I have to operate, right? I have no other choice. And I get into a thing where every bite is potentially into bowel. It's literally like the bowel is right there, small intestine. Not so much the colon, the small intestine. It's actually one of the layers. Like, I can almost promise you, if you were to have a CAT scan, I'm going to see loops that go near, but when you cough, get pushed out your intestine. And so what happens if you contaminate? All it takes is a pinhole, and now you have from a sterile procedure to a contaminated. Now I'm not going to use a piece of plastic, polypropylene, because the interstices, these little connections here, bacteria
Hold
love to sit in
everything.
that.
Okay.
And so you wouldn't put in, so then you're trying to use two biologics, hoping that your body infiltrates and buttresses that. That's actually the nightmare of hernia. Yeah. Then there's the last thing, and this is just the logistics. That OHP does not cover. We actually just had a meeting yesterday about, you know how things fall above or below the line?
Yep.
Yeah. So hernias are in this weird middle, and when there's a lot of money, sometimes hernias, we can include more lines, and oh my God, finally, I can get these guys that want to go back to work, and they're covered under their insurance. But now, because of COVID and people moving in, and there's so many people on OHP, that the line is moving up in what we can cover. So now you have to have an obstructed, strangulated bowel to get it covered.
Wow.
So chances are, or it's not covered then at
Right.
this point.
It's not. We just had that argument. In fact, they were reading me language. Are you ready? They said, well, they never strangulate.
What?
This is the medical director of CHOP. And obviously I'm on the board. I go, what are you talking about? Of course they do. I can give you a list of the patients who are dying in the ER,
Oh my goodness.
and they have a chronic ventral incarcerated. He goes, yeah, it says here that doesn't happen. I love it. Just because it's on there, that is totally wrong. Now, I'm not, see, that's where that line be in the room, where it happens.
Mm-hmm.
You need a surgeon to, when they're coming up with the language. It's ludicrous. But anyway, that's where we are right now.
So I'm screwed.
Well, you're not screwed in the sense of your bowels are working and the alternating constipation and diarrhea. If I were to show you, I'm telling you, you know when the people put in a new driveway here and they do the heated driveway? How does that work? It works by pipes that get fixed in concrete, but they're fixed in a way that it allows fluid to go through it. That's your belly. Then you have a fixed pipe work, enmeshed in a glue, but we're just lucky that you have never had an episode that kept you in the hospital. Like every time I see your posts, I'm always like, hey, however it laid down open. I have other people, they're in every 4 to 6 weeks, NG tube, and you don't operate because they have this kind of belly and they get better. Oh, they're in the summer and corn on the cob and the grill, boom, they pack it, they're in. So you've been very lucky.
God.
I want to emphasize that. Your belly is the type that if you said, like we just ran into each other, and you said, I've been in the hospital 6 times this year, it wouldn't shock me at all. So when I see that you're not doing that year after year, you have no idea how lucky I feel for you. Really. So, I want you to have your 6-pack washboard, you're lean, but when it comes down to it, you have, unfortunately, Swiss cheese tissue on top of a glued, cocooned abdomen.
Gotcha.
Yeah, what I would be most afraid of, and what comes out of this, the most important thing you need to hear is, how do I know when that happens to me? It's very distinct. You know how you say when I cough or I bulge, it goes in and out. This is suddenly a hard egg. Like, what is with this? It's painful, then the bloating, now you're nauseated and vomiting, you're not farting anymore. You're like, something's totally changed. That's what I'm worried about.
Okay.
Yeah.
So at this point, it's not painful or
No.
anything.
No, you know
So-
why? Because they were weak when I operated. You didn't have to blow them out.
Gotcha.
And actually, the weaker they are and the more they allow you to do this, There's no pain with that. When people describe pain in a hernia, I've heard this for 30 years, when it's small and then and it would go out, very painful. As the ring relaxed and now it just goes in and out, the pain goes away. That peritoneal stretch, you're not experiencing that because it's giving. The whole thing's giving through multiple holes. And yeah, I wouldn't expect you to have more pain, but as the years go, you might say, well, now look, now I don't even have to cough or anything, they're just there when I stand up. The only thing you can do, and again, it's a cosmetic thing, is if you want to go back to binders, Velcro soft binders they don't do a thing for the hernia, they're just supporting you.
I've been doing that just recently.
Yeah.
And it offers support and everything, but
And that's it. If it makes you feel better, great. If you're like, it's a hassle, the thing binds, the Velcro catches me, it's not doing anything for the hernia.
Okay.
You can have a Velcro binder on over an incarcerating, dying, strangulated, necrotic bowel.
and it's not going to do
No,
anything.
because, for example, they have hernia belts,
Mhm.
and I've seen like 3 people in my life that it actually works, and this is who. It has to be somebody thin enough, and I mean a BMI of like 20. I remember this guy, I'm like, my God, this is built for you. When he laid down and I put his hernia in, there was a sulcus like a half egg. And he had fitted, because you have different things, into the hernia belt. It fit perfectly in. I said, you're the guy. This is why it works. But on me, I carry 20, 30 pounds too much, so there's tissue outside. It's just pushing from out here. It's already through the fascial defect. Now I'm just pushing on it. It has to be this.
Gotcha.
And there's
Inside.
nothing that will do that there.
Okay.
Yeah, so the Velcro binder, if it feels good, do it. If it doesn't, don't feel like I should be doing it. You shouldn't. It doesn't mean anything.
Okay.
Yeah.
So exercise wise,
So, so let me just be clear.
your recommendation for the whole thing?
I want you to do a ton of aerobic, being out there, walking, hiking, whatever. Everything that makes you go, huh, like that, peeing, going to the bathroom, you have a cough, you choked on something, every one of those is going to enlarge it. That's life. That's us, right? And how are you going to, I got a cough. What are you going to, there's no way to stabilize it. So I don't want you to think about it. It's just going to happen. These are going to slowly get bigger or more. It's a Swiss cheese, and right now it's a cosmetic thing.
Okay.
If you do heavy lifting, squat workouts, you're cutting wood, you're wheelbarrow in the summer, yes, it's going to make that more rapid. So you have to decide, like, I want to live my life. Certain things I'm going to do. I'm kiteboarding in the summer. If it makes these bigger, I want to live. So you have to decide. And I don't want you to think it like, so are you saying if I do 50 one day to really, it's going to incarcerate? That can happen with literally anything that increases your intra-abdominal pressure. And how would you know? And this is I have people that they have hernias and they don't want to get surgery. And I say, okay, do you go out, are you one of these guys that goes horseback riding into like nowhere land? You hunt, you do that, and they're like, yeah, that's what I love. Okay. Then I need you to save your life. If all of a sudden you're like, hey, this won't go in like it normally did, then I need you to stop everything. I need you to lay back on your back, knees up, relax yourself, and start manipulating. And some people are really good. They know exactly, I push this way, boom, and it's back in. Then you're good. You know that it's not. But if you go out there and you're doing something, this has actually happened where people are like, I should have stopped 6 hours. It didn't go in. Yes, you should have. So you just need to know, can I put it back in?
Gotcha.
Yeah. It's very distinct. It won't be subtle. It won't be like I cough and you're like, wait, is that it? It's very, because all of a sudden it's painful, and it's a different kind of crampy pain because it's obstructing the bowel. You'll remember that from surgery, where it's like that fullness, it's just blocked. So. Yeah. Yeah.
Crap.
I know.
Okay, so